What if I told you that much of what you've learned about success, power, and personal fulfillment might be keeping you exactly where you are? It sounds like an exaggeration, but think about it for a moment. From an early age, most people are taught to believe that all it takes is hard work, always being kind, waiting your turn, and trusting that the world will reward your good intentions. However, a quick look at reality reveals something unsettling. Often, those who most influence people, seize opportunities, and shape their own destiny follow completely different rules. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. While many philosophers described how the world should work, he chose to observe how it actually works. This is the essence of politics guided by reality, not by ideals. And that is precisely why his teachings continue to provoke debate to this day. Some people consider his ideas dangerous. Others believe they reveal truths that most prefer to ignore. But one thing is certain: those who understand human nature begin to see invisible games that previously went unnoticed. Perhaps you've wondered why some people manage to gain respect without begging for attention, why certain individuals seem to advance even when everything is against them, or why less talented, less intelligent, and even less prepared people often achieve positions that others pursue for years without success. The answer is rarely luck. And when fortune does appear, it usually favors those who have developed their own virtù and fortuna, their ability to act, adapt, and prosper independently of circumstances. In this video, you will discover 10 laws that are rarely taught openly. Laws that involve perception, influence, clarity, strategy, personal power, and emotional mastery. Some of them may challenge beliefs you've held for years. Others may make you see situations in your life from a completely different perspective. But if you stay until the end, you will understand why so many people spend decades chasing what they want without ever achieving it, while others seem to attract opportunities, respect, and results almost inevitably. The question is simple. Are you prepared to abandon comfortable illusions and see the game as it really is? If something inside you awakened while listening, don't ignore that feeling. This channel isn't about videos, it's about memories. Remember who you were before the fear, before the exhaustion, before the silence. Each new video here is a different reflection of your own soul, an invitation to understand what the world never taught you. The power you seek outside has always been within you. If you feel that this journey speaks to what lives silently within you, sign up now. Not to follow yet another creator, but to reconnect with something the world tried to make you forget. Because here, every word was made to heal, each reflection to awaken, and each video serves as a reminder. You are not alone on the path back to yourself. Click on subscribe and turn the algorithm into a daily reminder of who you really are. Most people believe that power is linked to strength, influence, or social position, but those who observe reality carefully perceive something much deeper. True power begins with clarity. A confused individual may have money, contacts, and opportunities, but will continue to be driven by circumstances. However, someone who clearly sees what they want, what they accept, and what they will never tolerate becomes difficult to manipulate. Machiavelli understood that politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires a clear vision of the facts, without the filters of desire or illusions. When a person stops interpreting the world through momentary emotions and begins to observe it as it really is, something changes in their attitude. They speak less, decide better, and waste less energy trying to please everyone around them. This is precisely why so many individuals remain trapped in repetitive cycles. They don't lack intelligence, they lack clarity. And clarity doesn't arise by chance. It emerges when someone begins to ask themselves uncomfortable questions. What do they really want? What are they only pursuing because others expect it? What are they sacrificing to maintain an image? Those who master these answers develop a silent form of authority. Interestingly, this authority doesn't need to be proclaimed. It is simply perceived, and when this perception begins to emerge, it becomes impossible to ignore how many illusions shape the choices of most people. When clarity sets in, it produces an effect that few are prepared to face. It begins to destroy illusions, and this is not always comfortable. Many people prefer to live surrounded by pleasant narratives rather than face reality as it truly is. Machiavelli observed that men often see what they wish to see, not what is before them. This is why manipulation becomes so effective. It thrives in environments where there is confusion, emotional neediness, and a lack of self-knowledge. Those who don't know exactly what they are looking for end up accepting any direction offered by others. Those who don't understand their own values can be convinced to defend interests that aren't even their own. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, demands precisely the opposite, looking at the facts without the need to make them more beautiful than they are. In relationships, business, or friendships, clarity allows one to perceive signs that previously went unnoticed. Excessive praise can hide self-interest. A grandiose promise can conceal incompetence. A demonstration of affection can be merely an attempt at control. This doesn't mean living in constant distrust of everyone, but understanding that decisions based on real human nature require careful observation. The more a person understands human patterns, the less vulnerable they become to the invisible games that happen daily. And when these illusions begin to crumble, an inevitable question arises. If so many external influences have shaped your life so far, who are you really when you decide to define yourself? There comes a point in life when a person realizes something that completely changes their way of seeing the world. Most of the identities they carry were not created by them. They were inherited from family, absorbed from school, copied from friends, or imposed by societal expectations. And it is precisely at this point that true personal power begins. Machiavelli understood that no one governs an external territory before learning to govern themselves. Those who do not define their own identity end up living as a character written by other hands. Today, they adapt to please one group. Tomorrow, they change to be accepted by another, and so they spend years without knowing who they really are. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires the courage to look inward and separate what is authentic from what has only been conditioned. A simple exercise can reveal a lot. List the 5 biggest decisions made in recent years and honestly ask yourself how many of them stemmed from a genuine desire and how many were motivated by fear of rejection. The answer usually surprises you. The powerful individual is not the one who controls crowds, but the one who does not need their approval to continue moving forward. This doesn't mean ignoring useful opinions, but preventing others' opinions from becoming invisible chains. The clearer your self-definition becomes, the firmer your presence becomes. And curiously, it is at this moment that others begin to respect you more. After all, few things are as rare as someone who knows exactly who they are. But there is an even deeper detail. This solid identity cannot depend on something borrowed, because all borrowed power is eventually taken away. Machiavelli taught an idea that has endured for centuries precisely because it remains true. There are people who seem powerful only because they are surrounded by resources, and there are people who are powerful even when they lose everything. The difference between them lies in what he called virtù and fortuna. Fortuna represents circumstances, opportunities, privileges, and even luck that appears along the way. Virtù, on the other hand, is something much rarer. It is the inner capacity to act, adapt, decide, and rebuild. Many confuse the two. They think that a position generates authority, that money generates respect, or that social standing generates permanent influence. But a crisis, a dismissal, or an unexpected change is enough for that power to disappear. The man who depends exclusively on fortuna lives in constant vulnerability. The one who develops virtù carries with him a source of strength that cannot be confiscated. An entrepreneur can lose a company and build another. A leader can lose a title and continue to attract followers. A strategist can lose resources and still find new paths. That is why Machiavelli valued so much decisions based on real human nature. He knew that the world is constantly changing, and only those who possess constant adaptability manage to remain relevant. True power lies not in what one possesses, but in what one has become, because everything that comes from the outside can disappear. What comes from within remains available even in the most difficult moments. And when a person develops this silent security, something arises that few can explain, but everyone can feel when they come into contact with it. There's a characteristic present in almost every figure who has marked history, and curiously, it rarely appears in self-help books or motivational speeches. It's not aggressiveness, it's not exaggerated charisma, and much less a constant need to prove one's worth. It's a kind of unwavering tranquility, a silent feeling that they know where they're going, even when no one else can see the way. Machiavelli observed that the most effective leaders didn't waste energy trying to convince the whole world of their abilities. They acted as if the result was only a matter of time. This posture creates what can be called an aura of quiet inevitability. When a person demonstrates confidence without arrogance, determination without anxiety, and conviction without needing approval, others begin to perceive in them a strength that is difficult to explain. It's like someone who crosses a storm without running, because they know exactly where the shelter is. Many fail because they confuse movement with progress. They talk too much, announce plans prematurely, and seek validation even before building results. The strategic individual does the opposite. He understands that better to be feared than loved doesn't mean spreading fear, but conveying a presence that inspires respect. He also understands the importance of avoiding being hated, maintaining a balance between firmness and social intelligence. In a meeting, for example, he is usually the person who speaks the least, but whose words receive the most attention. In a conflict, he is the one who remains calm while others lose control. And it is precisely this serenity that begins to shape the perception of those around him. Because in the end, power is rarely just about what someone does. Often it is linked to how others interpret what they see. One of the most uncomfortable truths about power is that people rarely react to pure reality. They react to their perception of reality. Machiavelli understood this centuries before the existence of social media, advertising, and digital influence. He observed that, in most situations, what others believe to be true has a more immediate impact than what actually is true. This is where the so-called theater of power comes in. Not as a constant lie, but as the understanding that every human interaction has an interpretive component. An extremely competent professional who doesn't know how to communicate their value will often be surpassed by someone less capable, but more skilled at building perception. A leader can make brilliant decisions and still fail if they don't know how to present those decisions in an understandable way. This is why Machiavelli spoke about the importance of the appearance of virtue. Not because virtue is useless, but because the world first observes, then interprets, and only then judges. Think of someone who enters a room conveying calmness, firm posture, and emotional control. Before even saying a word, they have already influenced the environment. Similarly, someone who displays excessive insecurity communicates fragility even when possessing superior knowledge. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, requires understanding that perception is a strategic variable. This doesn't mean manipulating people dishonestly, but recognizing that every message needs to be presented intelligently to be understood. The most influential individuals in history have always mastered this art. They knew when to appear, when to remain invisible, when to speak, and when to let silence work for them. And when someone learns to intelligently manage their own image, they discover that excessive predictability can become a dangerous weakness. Most people believe that being predictable is an absolute virtue. They repeat the same behaviors, follow the same patterns, and constantly reveal their intentions, imagining that this conveys stability. In some contexts, it really does. But in competitive environments, excessive predictability can turn someone into an easy target. Machiavelli understood that whoever reveals all their moves loses one of the greatest strategic advantages that exists: the ability to surprise. This doesn't mean acting impulsively or chaotically. On the contrary, the true strategist creates calculated chaos. They maintain clear objectives, but avoid making their methods completely predictable. Think of a chess player who always uses the same opening. Sooner or later, their opponents will discover exactly how to neutralize them. The same happens in business, in relationships, and even in professional life. Constant adaptability allows a person to remain difficult to read. Sometimes they advance quickly. At other times, they slow down. At certain moments, they speak. At others, they observe. This alternation prevents others from constructing a complete understanding of their intentions. The strategic individual understands that surprise generates a psychological advantage. While everyone expects an emotional reaction, they respond with serenity. While everyone expects confrontation, they retreat. While everyone believes they have given up, they are reorganizing their forces. It is precisely this ability to break expectations that makes someone so difficult to control. And the more someone masters this art, the more they realize that there are times when cunning produces better results than brute force. But there are also situations where only force can protect what has been conquered. Among Machiavelli's best-known teachings is a metaphor that remains surprisingly relevant today. He said that those who wish to preserve power must learn to be both a fox and a lion. The fox recognizes traps, the lion wards off threats. The problem is that most people develop only one of these skills. Some spend their entire lives trying to solve everything by force, direct confrontation, and imposition. Others believe that intelligence and diplomacy are enough to overcome any obstacle. Both make the same mistake. Reality rarely rewards extremes. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires the ability to alternate between firmness and flexibility as the situation demands. Imagine a leader facing a demotivated team. If they act only like a lion, imposing rules and constantly pressuring, they may generate silent resistance. If they act only like a fox, trying to please everyone and avoid conflict, they will lose authority. Balance arises when they use cunning to understand people's motivations and strength to establish clear limits when necessary. The calculated use of force was never about uncontrolled aggression. This refers to the ability to demonstrate responsiveness without needing to use it all the time. It's similar to a boat owner who knows exactly when to adjust the sails and when to reinforce the hull during a storm. Those who master this alternation become much harder to challenge. Others never know exactly which version they will encounter, and this uncertainty generates respect. After all, those who seem incapable of reacting are usually tested repeatedly. Those who demonstrate intelligence and strength in balanced proportions become obstacles that few wish to face. And when this combination begins to produce results, even defeats take on a completely different meaning. Few things reveal more about a person than how they react to defeat. Most interpret failure as a death sentence, a sign of inadequacy, proof that they lack sufficient talent. But Machiavelli saw reality differently. He knew that the game of power was never won by those who never fell, but by those who learned to transform each fall into a strategic advantage. The world is full of examples of this. Businessmen who went bankrupt before building empires, leaders who were rejected before gaining influence, and thinkers who spent years being ignored before being recognized. The difference was not in the absence of failures, it was in the ability to extract value from them. Virtù and fortuna appear precisely in these moments. Fortune changes, the scenario changes, conditions change, but virtù allows someone to use the rubble of a defeat to build an even stronger position. Think of a professional who loses an important promotion. Most spend months complaining. The strategist observes. He identifies which skills were lacking, which alliances were not built, and which errors of perception contributed to the outcome. Instead of fueling resentment, it transforms information into fuel. Decisions based on true human nature require this ability to analyze facts without letting the ego take control, because every loss contains a hidden message. And the faster someone finds that message, the faster they get back in the game. Interestingly, some of the most respected people don't inspire admiration for their victories, but for how they survived defeats. And it is precisely at this point that an even more powerful discovery emerges. Winning is not just about accumulating achievements. Often, it's about making your presence so valuable that others miss you when you're gone. One of the most subtle forms of power doesn't arise from imposition, wealth, or formal authority. It is born from utility. Truly influential people understand that when they become difficult to replace, they occupy a privileged position in any environment. Machiavelli observed that loyal, self-sufficient armies were more reliable than borrowed forces, precisely because they created a structure of dependence based on real value. The same principle applies to modern life. A professional who solves complex problems becomes indispensable. A friend who offers guidance in difficult times is constantly sought after. A leader who delivers consistent results creates a reputation that precedes them. But there's a detail that few realize. Permanent utility can breed complacency. When someone is always available, their presence ceases to be valued. This is where strategic withdrawal comes in. Not as childish manipulation, but as intelligent value management. Think of a consultant who responds immediately to any request. Over time, their help becomes guaranteed. Now imagine that they begin to carefully select where they invest their attention. Suddenly, their time becomes more valuable. Their participation gains weight. The same happens in various areas of life. Scarcity often increases the perception of importance. Politics, guided by reality, not ideals, recognizes that people tend to value more what they do not have unrestricted access to. This does not mean creating artificial distance, but understanding that excessive availability can reduce impact. The most strategic individuals know exactly when to appear, when to contribute, and when to allow others to feel the absence of their contribution. And when this absence begins to produce effects, a new dimension of power comes into play. The ability to influence not only through action, but also through the perception created around one's own presence. Most people spend their entire lives trying to control events, but ignore something that often exerts an even greater influence: the narrative created around them. Machiavelli understood that men and women are judged not only by what they do, but also by the story others tell about them. This is why some people earn respect even before demonstrating concrete results, while others accumulate extraordinary achievements and remain invisible. Controlling perception begins when someone takes responsibility for their own image. Not a false image, but a carefully constructed identity. The appearance of virtue plays an important role in this process, because human beings interpret signs before knowing facts. A leader who conveys security inspires confidence. A professional who demonstrates consistency conveys competence. An individual who maintains coherence between discourse and behavior strengthens their reputation with each interaction. Over time, these perceptions accumulate and form something powerful, a personal myth. Not in the sense of fantasy, but of symbolic presence. Think of historical figures whose names immediately evoke certain characteristics. Some are associated with courage, others with intelligence, others with discipline. This doesn't happen by chance. The consistent repetition of behaviors creates a memorable identity. Politics guided by reality, not ideals, requires understanding that reputation is a strategic asset. It opens doors, generates opportunities, and influences decisions long before any conversation takes place. The problem is that most people leave this construction to chance, allowing others to define their narrative. The strategist does the opposite. They choose which values they want to represent and reinforce these signals continuously. And when this image begins to solidify, they discover that there is an even rarer skill than controlling the perception of others. Controlling one's own emotions when everyone around loses their balance. There's a silent rule present in virtually all power games. Whoever controls their emotions has an advantage over whoever is controlled by them. This doesn't mean becoming cold, indifferent, or incapable of feeling. It means not allowing momentary emotions to take control of the most important decisions. Machiavelli observed that many leaders lost positions not because of a lack of intelligence, but because they reacted impulsively to fear, anger, pride, or the need for revenge. And when someone reacts without thinking, they give their opponent exactly what they want: predictability. The most dangerous people are rarely the most aggressive. They are often the most balanced. While everyone argues, they observe. While everyone tries to prove something, they analyze. While everyone reacts, they choose to respond. This is one of the central principles of decisions based on real human nature. Emotion provides information, but the decision must arise from analysis. Imagine a negotiation where one party loses patience and begins to show anxiety. Automatically, they reveal fragility. Now imagine someone who remains serene even under intense pressure. Their calmness alters the dynamics of the conversation. Emotional detachment produces exactly this effect. It prevents other people from using their feelings as levers of control. It's no coincidence that great strategists often seem difficult to provoke. They know that every impulsive reaction has an invisible cost. Better to be feared than loved can also be interpreted as the ability to inspire respect through emotional stability. After all, few attributes are as powerful as the ability to remain firm when everyone else is being dragged along by circumstances. And when someone reaches this level of inner mastery, they begin to realize that their presence doesn't always need to be constant to continue exerting influence. There's a curious paradox in human nature. Often people only realize the true value of something when they no longer have access to it. The same principle applies to power, influence, and personal presence. Machiavelli understood that excessive exposure can generate familiarity, and excessive familiarity often reduces impact. This is why some historical figures became more influential when they spoke little than others, who spent all their time trying to attract attention. Strategic absence doesn't mean isolation, arrogance, or permanent withdrawal. It means understanding that constant presence can diminish the weight of one's own presence. Think of someone who is available at any time to anyone. Over time, this availability ceases to be perceived as valuable and becomes an obligation. Now imagine someone who participates selectively, contributing with quality when necessary and preserving their time when not. Their arrival generates expectation. Their opinion receives attention. Their participation has meaning. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, recognizes that scarcity influences perception. This is precisely why rare resources are often more valued than abundant resources. The same occurs with attention, energy, and access. The strategist understands that they don't need to be everywhere to remain relevant. On the contrary, often their strength grows precisely because they cannot be easily found. This also applies to the digital environment, where many confuse constant exposure with authority. True influence rarely arises from excessive presence. It arises from the combination of value, consistency, and selectivity. And when someone learns to manage their own absence, they discover something even more important. To remain relevant over the years, it's not enough to protect an identity. You need to be willing to transform it repeatedly. One of the most dangerous pitfalls of success is making someone believe they have reached their final destination. Many people achieve a certain level of recognition, stability, or influence, and, without realizing it, begin to cling to the version of themselves that produced those results. Initially, this seems sensible. After all, if something worked, why change it? But Machiavelli understood a truth that few accept. What creates power today can become the cause of stagnation tomorrow. The world changes, circumstances change, people change, and those who refuse to evolve end up becoming prisoners of their own identity. Virtù and Fortuna perfectly illustrate this phenomenon. Fortuna constantly alters the scenario, while Virtù allows adaptation in the face of these changes. An entrepreneur who prospered in a market may fail if they insist on outdated strategies. A leader admired at a certain time may lose relevance if they continue to act as if nothing has changed. Constant adaptability is not just a competitive advantage, it is a condition for survival. Observe figures who have remained influential for decades. They rarely repeated the same version of themselves indefinitely. They adjusted their speeches, learned new skills, abandoned old habits, and rebuilt their approaches several times. The strategic individual doesn't just ask who they are today, they also ask who they need to become tomorrow. This mindset prevents identity from becoming a prison. After all, the goal is not to protect a static image, but to continuously expand one's own capabilities. And the more someone understands this, the more they realize that there is a silent danger hidden within stability, the human tendency to cling to what already works, even when transformation becomes necessary. The greatest illusion one can develop after achieving a certain level of success is believing they have finally found a permanent position. The human mind loves stability. It enjoys the feeling of control, predictability, and security. However, Machiavelli observed that the real world does not respect this desire. Kingdoms fall, markets shift, alliances dissolve, and what seemed unshakable today may disappear tomorrow. This is precisely why politics guided by reality, not by ideals, demands constant self-vigilance. Power is not a trophy to be won and kept on a shelf. It is a living process that needs to be continually renewed. Many leaders have failed not because they were defeated by stronger adversaries, but because they fell in love with their own formula for success. They continued repeating old strategies while the surrounding environment transformed. The end justifies the means can be interpreted here as the willingness to abandon methods that no longer serve the greater goal of continuing to grow and adapt. Those who insist on remaining the same end up being overtaken by those who understand the need for change. Decisions based on true human nature show that human beings naturally tend towards comfort, and that is precisely why evolution requires conscious effort. The powerful individual learns to constantly question their certainties, challenge their routines, and rebuild their skills before reality forces them to do so. They understand that better to be feared than loved and avoiding being hated depend on the ability to remain relevant in different scenarios. In the end, true power does not belong to the strongest, the richest, or the most admired. It belongs to those who can be reborn as many times as necessary, while the others remain trapped in old versions of themselves. Now, the real question isn't whether these laws work. The real question is, what will you do with them from today onward? Because knowledge by itself doesn't transform anyone. Every day, thousands of people watch videos, read books, consume valuable content, and remain exactly where they were. Not for lack of information, but because they never apply what they've learned. And that's precisely where an invisible separation exists between those who observe life unfolding and those who shape their own destiny. Throughout this video, you've seen that power doesn't begin with money. It doesn't begin with status. It doesn't begin with influence. It begins with clarity, with the ability to see reality without filters, with the courage to define who you are, with the discipline to control your emotions when everyone around you is reacting impulsively, and above all, with the willingness to continuously transform yourself while most remain stuck in the same versions of themselves. Machiavelli understood something that remains true centuries later. The world rarely rewards intentions. The world rewards action. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, demands that you stop waiting for perfect circumstances and start building power where you are, with what you have today. Perhaps you don't control fortune. Perhaps you don't control all the opportunities that come your way, but you can always develop your virtue. You can always strengthen your mind, broaden your vision, refine your strategies, and increase your adaptability. So reflect honestly, which of these laws best describes your greatest current weakness? The difficulty in controlling emotions, the constant need for approval, the fear of change, the inability to let go of old versions of yourself? And which one, if seriously applied over the next few months, would have the potential to completely transform your trajectory? Write your answer in the comments. I want to know which law impacted you the most and why. Often, what bothers you the most is exactly what needs the most work. If this video has opened your mind to a different way of seeing power, strategy, and human nature, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because here you won't just find comfortable ideas, you'll find knowledge that challenges beliefs, reveals invisible patterns, and helps you develop an increasingly strategic view of life. Ultimately, while most people continue to react to the world, few learn to understand it. And even fewer learn to influence it. The choice of which group you will be a part of starts now.